Okay, so here we have our story for this week. So Bella and the bear. Okay, so from the picture we can see there's a bear. He has pies, and there's a jacket on the roof. So what might this be about? This story, Bella and the bear. So obviously there's a bear. Maybe Bella has pretended to be on the roof. Maybe some of you have heard this story already. So it's a Russian folk tale. So you might have heard of it. What might the bear be doing? Is he looking for Bella? So what could be going on? Okay, so we're going to go through it now. I'm going to read it once. I'm going to go through the questions. And then what I want you to do is I want you to read it one more time aloud. And then one more time again in your head. So you know exactly the answer for each question. Alright? Okay, perfect. So, Bella and the bear. An old man and woman had a granddaughter whose name was Bella. Each summer she would stay in their tiny cottage beside a dark, dense forest. One summer's day, the little girl's friends called and asked her to go and collect mushrooms with them in the meadow. Granny, Grandad, cried Bella, may I go? I'll bring you lots of mushrooms, I promise. Run along then, the old pair said, but mind you don't go near the forest, or the wolves or bears will get you. Off skipped the girls towards the meadow at the forest edge. Bella knew that the best and the tastiest mushrooms grew beneath the trees and bushes in the forest. Almost without noticing, she wandered out of sight of her friends. She moved from tree to tree, from bush to bush, filling her basket with mushrooms, browns and whites, reds and yellows. All the while she was going deeper and deeper into the forest. Suddenly she looked up and realized she was lost. Hello, hello, she called, but there was no reply. But somebody heard. From the trees came a rustling and a cracking, and out stepped an enormous brown bear. When he set eyes on the little girl, he threw up his arms in joy. Aha, he cried, you'll make a fine servant for me. Taking the girl roughly by the arm, he brought her to his cottage in the depths of the dark wood. Once inside, he growled at her, now stoke the fire, cook some porridge, and make my home clean and tidy. There now began a miserable life in the bear's cottage for poor Bella. Day after day she toiled from dawn till dusk, afraid the bear would eat her. All the while she thought of how she could escape. Finally an idea came to her. Mr. Bear, she said politely, may I go home for a day to show my grandparents I'm alive and well? Certainly not, growled the bear. You'll never leave here. If you have a message for them, I'll take it myself. That was just what Bella had planned. She baked some cherry pies, piled them high upon a dish, and fetched a big basket. Then she called the bear. Mr. Bear, I'll put the pies in this basket for you to carry home. Remember, though, don't open the basket and don't touch the pies. I'll be keeping my eye on you from the cottage roof. All right, grumbled the bear. Just let me take a nap before I go. No sooner was the bear asleep than Bella quickly climbed onto the roof and made a lifelike figure out of a pole, her coat, and a headscarf. Then she scrambled down, squeezed into the basket, and pulled the dish of cherry pies over her head. When the bear awoke and saw the basket ready, he hoisted it onto his broad back and set off for the village. Through the trees he ambled with his load, and soon he felt tired and footsore. Stopping by a tree stump, he sank down to rest, thinking to eat a cherry pie. But just as he was about to open the basket, he heard Bella's voice. Don't sit there all day, and don't you touch those pies." Glancing round, he could just see her figure on his roof. My, that maid has sharp eyes," he muttered to himself. Up he got and continued on his way. On and on he went, carrying the heavy load. Soon he came upon another tree stump. "I'll just take a little rest and eat a cherry pie," he thought, puffing and panting with the weight. Yet once again Bella's muffled voice was heard. "Don't sit down, and don't you touch those pies. Go straight to the village as I told you." He looked back, but could no longer see his house. "Wow!" he exclaimed. "She's got eyes like a hawk, that girl." So on he went. Through the trees he shuffled, down into the valley, on the groves of ash, up grassy knolls, until, finally, he emerged into a meadow. "I must rest my poor feet," he sighed, "and I'll just have one small pie to refresh me. She surely cannot see me now." But from out of nowhere came a distant voice. "I can see you! I can see you! Don't you touch those cherry pies! Go on, go on, go on!" The bear was puzzled, even scared. "What big eyes she has!" he growled, hurrying across the field. At last he arrived at the village, stopped at Bella's door, and knocked loudly. "Open up!" he cried gruffly. "I've brought a gift from your granddaughter." The moment they heard his voice, however, all the dogs of the village came running from their yards. Their barking startled him so much, he left the basket at the door and made off for the forest, without a backward glance. How surprised Bella's grandparents were when they opened the door to find the basket and no one in sight. Grandad lifted up the lid, stared hard, and could scarcely believe his eyes. For there beneath the cherry pies sat the little girl, alive and well. Granny and Grandad both danced with joy, hugged Bella, and said what a clever girl she was to trick the bear. Soon all her friends heard the news and came running to hug and kiss her too. Bella was so happy. In the meantime, deep in the forest, the old bear reached home and shouted to the figure on the roof to make his tea. Of course, it did not take him long to learn that the wise girl had tricked him and got away. Okay, so that was the story. It's a Russian folk tale. So, like Tir na Nog is an Irish folk tale, this is a tale that Russian parents would teach their children. And this basically tells the children to obey the parents and to listen to what they say because they're much wiser than the children. Right? So the parents knew not to go anywhere near the forest because there was wolves and bears. But what did Bella do? She went to the forest, she was looking for mushrooms, and she got captured by the bear. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to read that one more time aloud and then one more time silently to yourself. Okay? And over here we have the questions. Okay? So why did Bella go into the forest? So why did Bella go into the forest? What was she looking for? What chores did the bear order Bella to do? So you can make a list of the chores. So Bella did, and then the list, okay? What did Bella use to make a lifelike figure of herself? So there was 3 things she used, so I want all of them. So Bella used, okay, and 1, 2, 3. Okay, so full sentences here. Where was the bear while she was doing this? Okay, so what was the bear doing? Where was he? What was in the basket that the bear carried to Bella's grandparents' house? Okay, so what was in the basket? There was something in the basket that the bear wanted to eat on his way over, but he didn't. Okay, what frightened the bear away from Bella's grandparents' house? Okay, so what frightened him away? Okay, so I want you to write these into your English copy. Okay, so how you're going to write it is you're going to write the question A, Okay, so we're going to have our, remember, our date, our time. We're going to have our title, so Bella and the bear. Okay, that's our title. Then down here we're going to have A and 1. Okay, so 1, A1, and that's, we're going to write our answer just after that then. Alright, okay, so Bella went to the forest, and then tell me why. So why did she go to the forest? Okay, so full sentences into your English copy, the title and the date. Alright, so we want the date as well. Okay, so the 18th of the 1st, 21. Okay, so remember it's 21 now. So we want the date, title, and then full sentences. Okay, and you're going to upload a picture of your copy onto Class Dojo, and I'm going to correct it. Alright, okay, then B, I want you to write out the full sentence. Okay, so we have our question here. She lived in a cottage beside a dark something forest. So what's a dense forest? Dense forest. Is it thick? Is it light? Is it black? Or is it scary? So dense. If I have really dense hair, or I have a really dense sandwich, so it's full of something, isn't it? So it's full. So is it thick, light, black, or scary? It's thick, isn't it? So thick is our answer. So I want you to write, she lived in a cottage beside a dark, thick forest. Okay, so all I have to do is write 5 sentences here. 6 sentences here. Okay, so that should be no problem for you. And then again here, I want you to write out these sentences. Okay, so you have to fill in the word. So the mean master always spoke to his slaves. So kindly, nicely, gently, or gruffly. So remember we had gruffly in our story, so the bear spoke gruffly. Okay, so it's not very nice. So the mean master always spoke. How would a master speak to their slaves? So a mean master. Kindly, nicely, gently, or gruffly. So these 3 words are positive words, aren't they? So kindly, nicely, and gently. They're all nice words. But this one, gruffly, is a negative word. Okay, so that is our answer, alright, because it's a negative thing. Okay, so you're going to write out the whole sentence. The mean master always spoke gruffly to his slaves. Okay, so 6 sentences from this exercise into our copy as well. Okay, so there'll be 3 spaces for you to put your assignments into. Okay, so these 3 exercises, I want to have a picture of each of those in that specific place. Alright, so there'll be A, B, and C written on it. Alright, so A, obviously you have to take a picture of the question A, and then B, you have to take the picture of your answers from question B, and then C, you have to take pictures from them, from C as well. Alright, okay, perfect. So if you have any problems, feel free to message me on Class Dojo, but these should be okay. Alright, okay, perfect.